Welcome, Adam.
Thanks,
Thank you for joining us today. I'm super excited to learn more about Vegas fitness.
Awesome. It's good to be here.
I originally met you, what was it, about a year and a half ago at the Measurable Difference?
Yeah, I think it was March of 2017, I think. Somewhere around there. April, May. Yeah.
So Adam runs a gym here in Calgary that is in a very specific niche. You've been running it for about 10 years.
Yeah. 2008. Yeah.
2008.
Yeah. So we're a personal training studio more specifically than a gym, meaning that all the sessions we run are either one-on-one or with a small group, and so it's not an open gym, I guess you could say.
So what made you decide to go in that direction?
Actually, we've been in business for 10 years, so we originally started off as a boot camp. So like, groups of anywhere from 10 to 20 participants. And, there's a whole backstory that goes along with this, but what we decided at one point in our business about just over 3 years ago is that we wanted to niche ourselves essentially and be more on the one-on-one side of things rather than the group side of things. And so that was a decision we made. It was a business decision, but that was kind of the turning point of our business and what's kind of led us to where we are now.
So what does Vegas Fitness offer? What is your primary focus?
So our main target that we serve is 50 plus and people with bone and joint issues. And so we help people just live better lives, live better quality lives, live longer lives. And we didn't always used to be such a narrow market, but we kind of have focused down into that niche. And so, that's what we do. We more specifically, we specialize in strength training on the fitness side of things.
And how did Vegas Fitness get started?
My business partner, Kyle, actually started in 2008. He's a kinesiologist, and right out of university, he started running boot camps and fitness classes, basically on the side of what he was doing as a job, which was a kinesiologist at a physio clinic. And me and him, we've known each other since high school. So we played high school football, high school rugby together, and that's kind of how we met. And so that was kind of the starting point to our business. He brought me on in 2010. I'd been kind of helping out a couple of years prior to that. The formation of the business was really in 2010 for me on my side of things. Yeah.
And where did it start?
We actually started it originally out of a physio clinic that Kyle was running or was working out of. They rented space to us at night, but kind of when we really got into the meat of things was when Kyle bought a house in Tuscany and we renovated the basement, put rubber floors down, dug a ditch to the basement so we could put a back door in, and we kind of formed a little personal training studio down in the basement in Tuscany. So that was kind of our real beginnings, and that was 2010-ish, within give or take a few months.
And what was your background before going into the training industry?
Yeah, so I had just graduated university. I took business at UVC with a major in entrepreneurship, and so I guess my career path was always going to be some type of entrepreneurial endeavor. Kyle, who is my business partner, he's a kinesiologist. The summer before I graduated, we worked together at the Foothills Hospital, just doing lawn maintenance. And we just discussed what we would like to do in the future, and he was kind of on the same path as far as wanting to be an entrepreneur. And that's kind of where the beginnings of our discussions of starting some type of fitness-related business started.
So why fitness?
Fitness is something, it's always been a part of my life, but I guess for me, why I decided to get into it is because it had such a big impact on my life right out of university, I guess you could say, more specifically strength training. And so what had happened was I was a 3-athlete sport in high school. I played football, basketball, and rugby, so I was active literally all year round. and many of the sports overlapped even by a little bit. So I was very active in high school, and once I graduated high school, the freshman 15 is a real thing. And so I packed on some weight, and at that point, within the first few months of university, and so I sought out a personal trainer myself. His name is James Fitzgerald. He's actually quite a renowned trainer within North America now. So I got really lucky in who I started training with. Kind of showed me, I guess, what strength training can do for your life, how it can have a real big positive impact, not only physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and just mentally as well. So he was really introduced me to what strength training really was. Before that, I didn't really know what it was. And so that's kind of how I got into the strength training industry, and that's what made me want to actually pursue it as a career.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And then what did you require of your first trainers in terms of certification?
Yeah, so initially it was very basic certification. So we started off, we were hiring more on the personality side of things, and we kind of put the certification thing, we kind of pushed it to the side and weren't too concerned about it. And that was initially how we hired, was personality based, which when we were running boot camps and fitness classes and things like that, that was totally fine. Now we're in a much different market. We serve a much different niche. And so we've, those standards have changed for us. So
starting out in the basement, you got some clients, I imagine, from working out of the physiotherapy clinic before.
Yeah.
And then at that point, did it kind of start to grow?
Yeah, so we started to grow within our basement. We were serving 30 to 45-year-old house mom demographic. Naturally, they talk. And so just from a grassroots perspective, it kind of grew and blew up in a sense, where we went from 20 clients to 80 clients within a year or so. And so we didn't really do any advertising. We put flyers up on mailboxes and stuff like that, and really I have no idea if that worked. But
did you do anything to encourage the word of mouth spread?
Yeah, we had referral programs in place where people would get a free month if they referred someone to us. But more so, I think it was just people are attracted to, I guess back then I was 23 years old, my business partner was 23, and they're just attracted to the enthusiasm, personalities, the kind of the culture that was built, the community that was part of our business back then, and that's kind of what brought people in.
Did the community and the culture come intentionally?
I think that's a good question. Yes and no. And when you're such a young entrepreneur, you don't really necessarily think of all those things out of the gate. Once we started to roll a little bit, we understood what the community aspect meant, and we really did push that part of it. Initially, not necessarily, but a year in, we understood that was an important part of our business. So we rolled with it and really intentionally tried to build that aspect of our business.
When you were early on in the basement, I can't imagine you had a huge amount of overhead. At that point, was it a very stressful business, or was it pretty chill?
Oh, at the time, I thought it was stressful. Yeah. But it was, to be honest with you, it was pretty chill, right? All we had was the mortgage to pay. As we've grown over the years, certainly the stress has reached levels that I never want to get back to. The city of Calgary knocked on our door one day and came by and told us that a neighbor had filed one too many complaints about parking issues, and we got kicked out and had to stop operations immediately. So that obviously was a pretty stressful point in our business. But so
that was kind of a catalyst to the next level.
Yeah,
hey?
Yeah. So when that happened, we were lucky enough that it happened in springtime. So we were running boot camps. So we didn't need much equipment to do it and things like that. So we immediately were able to move our operations to a field in Tuscany and just kind of continue until we found something that could kind of take the place of our basement in Tuscany as a more permanent solution to what we were doing.
You're running classes in the basement. City comes, pretty much says you can't do this. Yeah. You move to a field. What was your plan once you moved to the field? Like, what was going through your head? What was your plan of action to move to the next stage? Yeah,
I guess there would have been two options, really. It would have been to continue running in a field. Let's say three options. Continue running in a field. Second option was just to shut it down. And third option was to find a facility that we can run out of. And we chose a field just isn't a place where you can build a long-term business. And for us, this was a long-term thing. And so we sought out a facility, rented out a 1,250 square foot spot in Montgomery. And we signed I think it was a 2-year lease initially. And that was kind of the introduction to, running a business with real overhead.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what we did. We moved to Montgomery, put some paint on the walls, went to Home Depot, bought some cheap tile for the bathroom, put it down, and opened for business. Yeah.
When you got into your space in Montgomery there, did the stress and the realness of the business really hit you at that point? Was it did you have to go more all in, or what did that look like?
Yeah. So at that point, we actually had rent to pay.
Yeah.
And so that was, it's at the first of each month, you have to have your rent check in and it has to clear. And so that, that was a point where it was okay, we're running a business here with real expenses. We have a lease, and we have to figure this out. So that was kind of the first foray into running a full-time business for both of us. Kyle at the time, before we moved into Montgomery, he was still working part-time at the physio clinic, I believe. And so when we ended up moving, he quit his job so that he could kind of dedicate full-time hours to this.
Mm-hmm. Did you have to grow your clientele quite a bit to make that rent happen?
Yeah. So the nice thing was that we were making enough money beforehand so that when we moved in, we were still able to cover our rent. Okay. But the goal was to grow our clientele, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's what we did. We just continued to grow mostly by word of mouth, to be honest with you. And we did a little bit of Facebook advertising stuff, but that was in 2011. So Facebook hadn't really realized its full potential as far as the advertising and things go. So yeah, we were attempted to grow our clientele with very traditional forms of advertising. I remember we put we printed a bunch of signs, put them up on the side of the road. We posted posters and advertisements on mailboxes and light posts, and put a big banner up in front of our store and all that, or in front of our location and all that type of stuff. I'm not actually sure what worked, but
yeah. Well, as long as it worked.
Yeah, something worked back then.
So at that stage, did you know who your ideal target clientele was yet?
We thought we knew who our ideal clientele was, but I don't think we really understood what that actually meant at the time, compared to right now where we really have a good understanding of our clientele. But yeah, back then we thought it was 30 to 45-year-old moms, and that's what we thought we served best. And that's kind of what we rolled with for a while. And things have changed quite a bit since then. So
when you were starting out, I imagine you taught a lot of the classes or did a lot of the training.
Yeah.
Did it get tiring? Did you do a lot of the movement and the exercise while you were teaching all the classes?
Yeah, I was in the best shape of my life. But yeah, we taught all the classes, so 4 or 5 classes a day, doing certain portions of the class with the clientele themselves. Our warm-ups and then our cool-downs where we did ab work and things like that, we'd be quite active. So yeah, it was actually crazy. I was just looking at a picture of myself back in those days. It's crazy. I was in great shape back then. But yeah, it got exhausting. Yeah. You can. I think when you're young, you can sustain some of that type of stuff. But as you get older, and you have more responsibilities, and yeah, your body just, working out 5 times a day just isn't the best thing. So. Yeah.
I used to coach gymnastics and parkour, and I remember when I was 22, 23, running classes and stuff back to back was no problem, but I couldn't do it now.
Yeah, no, I know. It's funny how time goes on and you just look back, you're like, I was 23 almost 10 years ago. And yeah.
Do you find, despite being in the fitness industry, it's still hard to maintain the level of physical conditioning you want to while running a business?
Yeah, absolutely. I've over the years, I've struggled with my own fitness. I go through waves of being in great shape and then getting out of shape and then being in great shape again. And it's always been a struggle. And I think that's really why I can connect with my my clients, and I have an understanding what it's actually like to get physically fit. And it's tough. It's hard. It takes work. It takes dedication. Running a business, there's not a set schedule, so it's hard to be habitual with your own workouts and things like that. But I try to figure out a way.
So when you were starting out in those first 2 years in Montgomery, what was the first real struggle that you had to deal with? What was difficult to overcome in that time?
Well, the first 2 years, that's a tough question, because I don't think, really, it wasn't that big of a challenge initially. Our expenses were still pretty low. I think the biggest challenge, honestly, is patience.
Yeah.
So we really, to put things into context a little bit, when we had moved into Montgomery, we had actually signed our Royal Oak lease at that time, but the complex wasn't to be built for another 2 or 3 years. Oh. And so we had plans of moving up to bigger facilities and, bigger and better. And so I think the toughest challenge for us at that point was having patience for it to happen. And I think that was probably the toughest part about being in Montgomery, is that we had this thing in mind that we were working towards, and the complex, it was supposed to be ready within a year. Then it got pushed to 2 years, and I think it actually got pushed to 3 years by the time it was all said and done, just because of the way construction works in Calgary.
So when did you first experience having difficulties like trying to make rent and stuff like that?
So when we moved into Royal Oak, we went from a 1,200 square foot facility to a 4,200 square foot facility. And obviously with that comes higher rent. Not only did we do that, but we also moved from kind of a strip mall in Montgomery to a high-end retail location in Royal Oak. And so our rent skyrocketed. We went from like $3,000 a month to $15,000 a month overnight. And so it was the first year of that where we just, every month was a grind to get by. We were losing money every month. We had money in the bank to help kind of get us by, but we were losing money every month. And so, that was easily the most stressful part of my life, was that first year in there.
So from a application standpoint, what did you guys do to make sure you could make that rent, or to increase sales so you can make that rent?
Losing sleep. That was one. But we, it was kind of in that period when we were in Montgomery, we were doing mainly just fitness classes and boot camps. When we opened up in Royal Oak, we were doing boot camps and fitness classes plus personal training. And so we were growing the personal training side of our business to help make up that shortfall. And that was kind of our plan. But there's a lot of lessons that we learned within that time period. Number one being, it's hard being something for everyone. Yeah. And so our boot camp and fitness class clients were a lot different than our one-on-one clients. Different demographics, different needs and wants, different income brackets, all of it. And so it made it really, really hard to market both sides of our business.
So how did you maintain your energy? Because I'm guessing at that point, if you're doing all that personal training plus running classes and boot camps, how did you maintain your energy to put in those really long days, to put in those hours? I imagine you had to sacrifice other things like social life and activities and stuff like that.
I think when you're in it, you just do it. Like you just, I didn't have a choice. I just did it. I just woke up every morning, got to work, did my thing. All in the while of trying to change our situation. And so for us, I realized something had to change beyond just what we could do within our business. And so, it was tough. That was easily the most challenging part of my life. The first 2 years we moved into our Royal Oak location was easily the most challenging 2 years of my life. And it's just something that I look back on, and I just did it.
Yeah. What was your biggest motivation that got you out of bed in the morning?
Wanting to be successful, I think. Pushing. Basically, I looked at it as a challenge of who I was as a person, and being able to kind of push through that and really decide that I have the ability to push through this. I had two options. It was either just give up and quit and have a failed business and possibly affect my entrepreneurship, my entrepreneurial career for the rest of my life, or push through and come out on the other end one way or another. And so that's what I decided to do. And, my business partner, Kyle and Leslie, it helps to have a team around you guys so that everyone can kind of push each other through.
Mm-hmm. Did you think about quitting?
Yeah, every day. Yeah, absolutely. Every day I was like, why the hell am I doing this? But it was more of just like, when you have when you have an injury or something, and it's just something that you think about. It's not. So I just thought about it. I never really actively pursued quitting, but it was like, oh, geez, I can't do this for forever. So that was kind of, but definitely.
So thinking back, what do you think you learned that was of the most value from those 2 years?
I think one thing is that putting things into perspective. A lot of times, when we have issues and problems, me especially, I get so caught up in it and I don't look at the big picture of things. And so I think that was a big lesson for me, is like, okay, let's step back and take a look at what we're going through and what the problem is, and what is the worst outcome that can happen. And most of the time, it's never as bad as you think it is. And so just putting things in perspective, really taking the time to think about, the decisions that I'm making and the impact that they're going to have on the business outcome, and just being comfortable with making decisions. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. And that's all you can do.
So in those 2 years when you're working crazy hours, relatively stressful time, what kind of things in the rest of your life did you have to sacrifice to be successful there?
Yeah, it was tough. So you sacrifice time with your friends. I wasn't taking a salary at the time, so I couldn't do a lot of stuff at the time. And, I was in my mid-20s, and so losing that aspect for it was about a year to 2 years, were definitely some of the things I sacrificed. But I looked at it as part of the journey. So for me, it wasn't a massive sacrifice. It was just part of something that was part of life for me. And, there's tons of sacrifices as an entrepreneur, as you probably know, but it's not what I might consider a sacrifice is probably different than what someone else might consider a sacrifice. So I'm still lucky enough to have a really strong group of friends who I've been friends with since I was in junior high. My family's in Calgary, and I have a really strong connection with my family, and so that's kind of what helped me. That support structure was definitely what helped me bring me through the tough times.
Was it difficult for you to say no to people when they wanted to do stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always difficult when you're 25 years old. You want to be able to go to Coachella or whatever, right? You want to be able to do that, but I had to work. I had to work on, and I thought I had to work. Looking back, I would have done things a lot differently. But yeah, I had to teach fitness classes on Saturday and Sundays. So I definitely missed out on a lot of things like that. But I don't really have any regrets over it.
Yeah.
To say. Yeah.
That's good. So I want to go, just because it's really interesting to me, I want to go a little bit more into, I guess to a degree, theory when it comes to fitness, because in the industry, there's so many different approaches. Like you have the gyms that are trying to get people in shape to go and do aesthetics fitness contests, right? And then you have gyms that are just trying to get people to be as functionally fit as possible and live the best life. And then you have CrossFit and all these different aspects. And then you have like the powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting. So it sounds like from what you guys are doing, you really just want people to be functional and healthy, right?
That's so good. Yeah, absolutely. That's correct. Sure.
So what is your theory on the pros and cons to the different sides of that, and why did you go in the functional direction?
We've always been a functional type of place. I think a better question that I would like to answer is why we decided to go on the more individualized approach, one-on-one and small group personal training versus like a big boot camp setting. And for us, there's a massive difference in the instruction that our clients get compared to what they can get in a bigger class setting. It's just our trainers are kinesiologists for the most part to begin with, and second of all, we really take a focus on proper movement patterns and technique. And so for us, that's really what we try to promote is correct movement, so that we can avoid injuries and muscle imbalances and things that cause us problems in the future. And so I think there's different parts of fitness. I went to a boot camp last week just to try it out. And for me, that's fine. For some people who have maybe they're a little bit older or have injuries or that type of thing to take into account, those group places, most of the time it can do them worse. It can get them more injured. It can produce muscle imbalances that lead to problems further down the road. And so there's a certain subset of people that I think should be doing more customized, individualized approaches to fitness. Whereas if you're a little bit younger, you don't have any issues, those group style classes definitely have an important place in your fitness. And so I think it really depends on where you're at with your own fitness, what your goals and wants are, and what your capabilities are as well.
What advice do you have for people who are really busy, like whether they have a family and kids or a business or multiple jobs or lots on the go? What advice do you have for them for both deciding what they should do to stay in shape and for sticking with a routine?
Well, I think one of the things people they fail to realize is that fitness it should not be something that you hate. And so for the average person that's looking to get in better health and get in better shape is, first of all, find something that you enjoy. So if that means, playing tennis every week at the winter club or cross-country skiing or hiking, find something that you really love. And then, I strongly believe in the strength training aspect of fitness. And I believe that it is the foundation of fitness is strength training itself. So seek out someone who can help guide you through that process, design a plan that's appropriate for you and your needs and your injuries and your wants and your goals, and realize that it's the commitment itself is, you can get by off 2 days a week of strength training and see improvements and see the benefits of that. So realistically, in the grand scheme of things, what's 2 hours a week? And also we have to make it a priority in our lives. So of course it's, we all live busy lives, but at the end of the day, we have 2 options. We can go sit on the couch for an hour and watch TV, or we can go to the gym for an hour. And so we have to make that choice. And if we don't make that choice, well, then we kind of get that comes to us in a sense. And don't get me wrong, it's difficult. I struggle with it on a daily basis. I'm like, I don't want to do that damn workouts, but it's just something you have to do. And so, prioritize fitness in your life, understand the benefits of it long-term, because I think the benefits long-term are often overlooked in favor of the short-term results that people are often looking for.
So what lifts or exercises do you find most valuable? I know from other personal trainers I've talked to and some past experience, I've heard for just general fitness, kettlebells are great, and then like for strength, deadlifts. Sure. So what's your opinion?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Most really good personal trainers has a system for how they put together their workouts. So for me, it's not about whether it's kettlebell that's best or dumbbells or barbells or whatever your equipment of choice is. It's more about the movement patterns that we're concerned about. So when I'm looking to design a program for the average person, it's I want to be able to do hinge movements. So a deadlift is one exercise out of many in a hinge movement. I want to do a squat pattern. We have bodyweight squat, we have goblet squat holding a kettlebell, we have goblet squat holding a dumbbell. It doesn't matter which one you choose. We want to do upper body push, and we want to do upper body pull. And so those are kind of the 4 key components that goes into a fitness program, as well as anti-rotational lateral and frontal core stability, or a core. So when I go online, and I'm part of a bunch of different groups on Facebook, this question comes up a lot: what exercise is best for my glutes? And that question just drives me nuts, because it's like we shouldn't be focused on one part of developing one part of the body. We should be focused on the system of how our body works together. And so how we do that is our program needs to include a hinge, a squat, a press, and a pull. Focus less on a certain part of our body and focus more on the holistic aspect of what our bodies can do. And that way, in the future, you won't get injured.
Mm-hmm. So to a degree, like if you break it down to a really basic level, and this might not totally hit everything, if you're doing like some sort of a hinge, like a deadlift,
Sure.
and you're doing some squats of some sort, whether it's body weight or whatever, like pull-ups and push-ups, you more or less are hitting your body in general.
Absolutely, yeah. You have a deadlift in your program, you have a squat in your program, you have a push-up, and what was your other one? Chin-up?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're hitting a big portion of what you need to hit. Now, there's little intricacies that go into that, like I have a horizontal press and I have a vertical press.
Right.
I have a horizontal row and a vertical row. So, those types of things play into part of it too. And then also, like, what part of your body do we need to develop? And so, but yeah, if you were to design your own program, a hinge, a squat, a press, and a pull.
So what are some other hinges that you see that are really good other than deadlifts? Like maybe if someone's traveling or something, what's something easy to do?
Yeah, you can do hip thrusters, lying with your back on a bench or even the ground, heels out in front of you, and just lifting the hips up. It kind of looks like you're humping the air in a sense, but that would be one easy way. For the average person, you don't need much weight to be able to at least start with this stuff. So if you're traveling, you can go to a hotel gym and they'll at least have something that you can use to be able to do a Romanian deadlift.
Right.
Okay, so a conventional deadlift, yeah, you need a bar and things like that, but we can do Romanian deadlifts. We can do single leg Romanian deadlifts. There's a whole variety of exercises, but you don't need too much to be able to do some of this stuff. Doing a chin up, you need a bar. So some things we need a little bit more equipment, other things we don't.
The business has grown and evolved quite a bit over the last 10 years. You're now getting to a point where you're trying to remove yourself to a degree from the business, right?
Yeah.
What are you doing to go about building systems and processes so that the business can run without you? And is your partner trying to step back as well?
Yeah, so the goal of me and my business partner is to take more of an owner role of the business rather than an owner-operator role. Mm-hmm. And so for us, we've had business coaches in the past that have really instituted the idea of systems and processes. And so we've studied it quite extensively over the years, and so we understand the value of that. And so we've been in business long enough where we have a pretty good catalog of systems and processes that we've typed out and written, and some form is video, some form is written, some form is just audio. And so our next step is we just promoted one of our trainers into more of a managerial role. So that's your first step is getting out of having to think about things like transactions and payments, daily emails that we get from clients and things like that. And anytime our manager runs into a problem that they can't solve, get them to write it down, and then it's up to us to come up with some type of process that can help fix that. And so, yeah, I think systemizing is an ongoing thing, and it's not something I really enjoy.
Yeah.
But I see the value in it, because if I can create a system that takes me half an hour to create, in the future it can save me, however many hours of time dealing with that issue.
For sure.
So, yeah.
Very cool. And what's your goal for the future? What do you see Vegas Fitness doing in 10 years?
At one point in our business, we wanted multiple locations, and last year we were actually, we're a couple days away from actually signing a lease, and we just decided that right now isn't the time for us to have 2 locations. We really want to focus on this location that we have now and improving it and systemizing it. So yeah, we've taken a lot of steps to work towards that, including renovating our studio, upgrading it, putting our manager in place, making sure all of our trainers are operating with very similar philosophies and styles. And so we're on our way to that goal. Personally, I want to continue to grow as an entrepreneur. I guess my next thing that I'm going to be doing is diving into a separate business from Vegas Fitness that is more utilize the skills I've learned from this. Very system process oriented type of business with less overhead. A more direct route to profitability, I guess, is what I'm looking for. And then as far as Vegas Fitness goes, yeah, I want to get the most out of this location that we're in right now. And I don't think we're there yet. I think there's a couple more years to go. But just making it a place that has real impact on people's lives. And we already have that, which is great, but I think we can do more, including, educating people via video education and things like that. But yeah, I just see Vegas Fitness just continue to refine our processes. We serve a 50+ market, and we want to continue to do that. But as far as I am concerned, we're probably the leaders within Calgary in terms of actually developing a program that is focused on a 50+ demographic. And I want to continue to innovate within that space and continue to be the leader within that space instead of just always playing catch up. So yeah, that's kind of my 5-10 year goal.
That's very exciting. Yeah. I'm excited to see what you start next.
Awesome, Jonathan. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I think you provided a lot of value to people watching, and maybe I'll have to come try some training sometime.
Hey, we'll see you. Awesome. Thanks.
Our first sponsor is Symbol Syndication, which is a video production company that I started. We do video production and online marketing for businesses of all sizes, ranging from solopreneurs to Fortune 500 companies. Our second sponsor is Gravity Cafe. They've been gracious enough to give us their space. The coffee's awesome. They have live music 3 nights a week. The beer's great. It's an awesome place to come hang out.
Another sponsor of the Ambition Project is BusinessLink. BusinessLink is Alberta's entrepreneurial hub. They are a nonprofit organization that helps people navigate the steps towards starting their own businesses. Just because you're in business for yourself doesn't mean you're in business by yourself. BusinessLink's team of in-house startup experts are there to support you all along the way. Our next sponsor is the Better Business Bureau. Your BBB helps businesses build visibility, credibility, savings, leads, and community through BBB accreditation while funding free marketplace services with more than 1 million instances of service to consumers every year. Visit bbb.org/Calgary to learn more today.